What is going on, guys? This is the Inside the Podcast, episode number 46, and we're breaking down the New York Giants 24-3 loss over the Seattle Seahawks. Giants lose once again, and I feel like I'm going to be saying the same thing over and over again about this team. The offense was poor, and the offensive line cannot block. Daniel Jones, he was sacked way too many times in that one game alone, and this was kind of similar to Dallas too, just getting sacked every single play. And Seattle's pass rush isn't nearly as good as Dallas's, but our offensive line is a bunch of traffic cones right now. It is not looking good for the Giants as they have two really tough opponents upcoming. They have the Dolphins this week on Sunday and the Bills on another primetime game. And I just don't really understand why the Giants are playing on primetime for the rest of the season. We've seen what this team has done on primetime. We've seen what they did against the Dallas Cowboys. We've seen what they did on Monday against the Seattle Seahawks. This is just over and over again. I don't know when Roger Goodell is going to learn that this Giants team cannot score. And you want primetime games to be good. You want them to be entertaining. You want them to have both teams playing pretty well, not one team dominating over the other. The Giants' offense has been pitiful, and pitiful is not even the correct word of how bad this offense has been. They can't move the ball downfield, and if they do, they get the ball turned over. Daniel Jones has a prime opportunity to get this team back in it, get the fans back in it, and really make this, a football game. But he throws a 97-yard interception from the Seahawks 3-yard line, and Devin Witherspoon picks him off, takes it all the way down to the Giants' end, and he scores. And that makes the game 21-3 instead of a game where this is a 14-11 game, and maybe if Brian Dable decides to go for two, this is just a really bad job by Daniel Jones, and I think he played one of his worst games as a Giant. I think this was just so bad. I mean, this game really, falls on the offensive line of Daniel Jones. I thought the defense actually played fine, right? I thought they played fine. I thought Kayvon Thibodeau had a nice game, had a few sacks. Obviously Deontay Banks got, torched by DK Metcalf, and as a rookie, that's, when you play a pretty good wide receiver who is a lot bigger than you and a lot stronger than you, that's just what DK Metcalf is going to do. He's going to bully you. He's one of the strongest wide receivers in the league. One of the most physical. He's really good at that. And DK played a pretty darn good game. And, so did Tyler Lockett. Geno Smith, he came out of the game for a bit. Then Drew Lock, replaces him, and Drew Lock goes down the field and scores. That cannot happen. Drew Lock is not that good. That's just the things that piss me off. Is one, not responding after giving up a touchdown or anything. Not even just putting up points, whether it's a field goal. And yes, I know at the start of the game, it's 4th and 1. Giants want to push, keep this possession alive. They go for it. They don't get it. They try to do the, kind of the Philly bull rush and, play that Philadelphia runs really well. They try to do that. They got Shane Lemieux in the backfield. They got all these guys, and they just can't push Daniel Jones over, the first down marker. The Seahawks go downfield. Nothing really happens, right? So the defense looks okay at the start. Offense, fools us again with, the first drive being their best drive. They did it against Dallas too. And that, in that Dallas game, the game where, wheels fell off literally on the first possession as their kick got blocked and it was returned. This time, the Giants just don't get the first down. I don't hate the idea of going for it. Obviously, a lot of fans are going to say, take your points, go up 3-0. But I just feel like you're at their own, I think it was like their 23-yard line. That's the spot you have to go for it. I know the smart decision is, kick your points, but I feel like you've been pretty good on fourth down. That's one of the main things the Giants have actually been decent as fourth down conversions. I think they're 4 for 7 now this season. Um, but just really bad football. And this is a team where nobody saw this coming, right? Nobody saw this coming. This is a Giants team that made the playoffs last year. Obviously, they had an easier schedule, but you figure they add some weapons and nothing has changed. This is in fact a worse offense than last year, right? The Giants' offense last year actually moved the ball downfield. Yeah, they played worse opponents, but even when they played Dallas, right, they still kept it a decent game. On that Thanksgiving game with minimal weapons, right? They didn't have Jalen Hyatt, who still, I don't know why he hasn't been getting much playing time. I don't know if that's just because of his play style. He's more of a deep threat, but I still think they could really plug him in anywhere on the field, and I'd rather have him on the field than Paris Campbell, that's for sure. They have a much improved tight end with Darren Waller, and he didn't really get the ball much. Not too many targets for him. And I thought that was kind of going to be a game where, Darren Waller is a guy that, there would be a lot of opening because, their corners are good, but, they do allow a lot of yards. And I thought Daniel Jones was really going to rely on Darren Waller because, we go back to training camp. It felt like every notification you would get on your phone would be a Darren Waller touchdown, a Darren Waller contested catch. It would only be about Darren Waller and Daniel Jones zipping the football to him. But now, Darren Waller barely gets the ball, and obviously, Saquon Barkley was, another, um, you know, another bad loss because, no Saquon Barkley. His offense is most definitely not the same. They can't move the ball well, and I think even if Saquon played, I I think honestly, if they had a below average to mid offensive game, they could have made this game a lot closer. Maybe they could have won, but Seattle didn't really, I wouldn't say impress me, but they're a good football team, but I didn't think they played their best game either. I think they really feeded off the Giants' mistakes with the, just bullying this offensive line, right? I didn't, Bobby Wagner had over 10, 15, over 15 tackles, right? And that's just the player Bobby Wagner is. But I just need more out of this offensive line, and I feel like that's just what we're gonna keep saying for the rest of the season because this offensive line is just so bad, and it's just like we need to figure this out. We need to find a way to um, make this offensive line better. And don't bring it up to me, oh, fire the offensive line coach. That has nothing to do with it. An offensive line coach doesn't really change much. But also special teams, though, that needs to get cleaned up. I don't know if you move on from, the special teams coach or you really just ride him out. I know Dable said that there's not going to be any staff changes, and I kind of expect that. I don't think they're going to fire a coach mid-season. Because if you're going to fire a coach mid-season, you're going to you have to have someone ready, like right there. You don't want to go on a search because that's just another job for Joe Shane to do. And he's already got a lot on his plate right now. And one of the main questions is what are they going to do with this offensive line? Are they going to wait until the draft and really draft someone? We don't know what they're going to do, but we'll see what happens there. But I think the main thing that I believe it came out today or yesterday was the Evan Neal situation. Evan Neal, first round pick, has not lived up to his expectations. He was in the same draft where the Giants drafted Kayvon Thibodeau. And this guy takes a shot at the Giants fan base. And he says, why would a lion concern himself with the opinion of a sheep? The person that is commenting on my performance, what does he do? With hot dogs or hamburgers? So essentially, He's targeting us and calling us hamburger flippers. What are we doing, Neil? Evan Neal, look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, what have I done positively for this Giants organization? What have I done that I look at myself and say, oh, I did really good? Because there's nothing. There is nothing that Evan Neal has done, and I'm like, oh, really nice play, Neal. No. All it's been is him getting bulldozed by third stringers and second stringers, right? And obviously, Micah Parsons destroying him. That's expected, okay? I'm not mad at Neal for that. But when I see him get torched by these crappy players and players that I know are not that good, and he gets burnt by them, and Daniel Jones gets sacked, that's where I get pissed off. I know he keeps saying, I try to look to get him better, every single day. What the hell happened in the offseason? Did you not watch tape of how bad you were in your first year? Andrew Thomas did. Now look at Andrew Thomas now. Obviously, he's injured, but, he got better. Evan Neal has not shown enough growth do I say, oh, maybe this guy actually has something left. I don't know if Evan Neal really has much. I think he's just running his mouth a little too much, and I'm not a fan of that. And it's like, dude, if I'm John Mara, I'm bringing him into my office, and I'm telling him, this is your final warning. It's either you step up, or I cut you. Or else you're gone. Your job is gone, and then you're going to be the one who's flipping patties at McDonald's. You're going to be the one who's, grilling up hot dogs. That was a low blow by Evan Neal to say that about a fan base. That should and I know he apologized, but dude, they're not going to accept that. They're just going to boo you even more. Just a horrific and the season has already gone hill, and now we have a situation like that. I mean, come on, man. JMS, of course, shoulder injury, so the offensive line is a complete mess. And this is a Giants team that could very well go, 1-5, just because of the fact that their schedule is so hard and they have not shown enough that I could say, oh, this team has a chance of beating the Dolphins. This team has a chance at making it close against the Bills. They don't. Right now, with how their team has been playing, I just don't see that. I mean, it's still a young squad, and they still, need time to build this squad up, right? Acquire more talent, whether it's in the draft, using picks to acquire, an established NFL player. But we don't know, because this is just a team that needs more talent, and this is going to take time. I know they made the playoffs first year. That's an amazing start, and this might be a setback year, but I think this team still needs a good, maybe a few years until they can really call themselves a true contender where they're contending for the playoffs consistently. And that also goes into addressing the offensive line. That offensive line has to be at least average. Right now, they're the worst in the league. And Daniel Jones has to step up, because that 4-year, $160 million contract, not looking so pretty. And, we look at the stats. 11.5 points per game, that's ranked 32nd. Yards per game is 252, that's ranked 31st, so that's second to last. Yards per play, that's only 4, so they're not even averaging close to a first down. And that's ranked 31st, so there's one worse team than them. And touchdowns per game, that's 1.4, that's 31st. QB sacked is 14.65, so essentially 15% of the time Daniel Jones is getting sacked. They have no takeaways on the defense. They almost had one in the game against Seattle, but it came off the hands of Kayvon Thibodeau, and they have the worst first half ranking. Basically means they're the worst first half team in the league. Now we get to the Q&A now. Thank you all for submitting some questions, and we got 6 of them today. And the first question is really, how do we fix these problems? So, like I said, it's going to take a while for these problems to be fixed because this is not a 1 year thing where you can completely change your offensive line in 1 year. It's going to take some time, whether it's drafting some offensive line, working them out, or signing someone in free agency. So it's going to take time. Who is to blame, the coaching or the players? Well, I'll say this. I think for that Seattle game specifically, I think a lot goes on that coaching staff because you had a lot of time to prepare for that Seattle Seahawks game. But I do think, it falls on both behalves. I mean, it's tough to say because it's kind of tough to coach an offense when you can only run certain plays because of how bad your offensive line is. So, should we target trading for any offensive lineman? This is an interesting question because I don't really like trading for offensive linemen because I'd rather just use a pick on them and not waste a pick. I know it kind of makes no sense, but if I'm trading picks, I want a wide receiver, something like that. That's going to make this team, better. I just don't see the Giants trading for any offensive lineman this season. I know they just signed Justin Pugh. Next question is kind of, kind of I wouldn't say an interesting one, but should we tank for Caleb Williams? The top QB prospect, probably the, number one pick in the draft. QB out of USC, and I just don't see the Giants being that bad because the Chicago Bears have not even won a game yet. They've not won a game, so I don't think we're going to be able to get Caleb Williams, even though how bad this team has been. I see us picking around the 6 to 10 range. And should we sell off pieces like Adoree Jackson, Leonard Williams, and Saquon? It's so tough because some of their price tags. I mean, Leonard Williams is making $22 million a year. And I don't know if a team wants to take on, even though it's only a 1 year deal, I don't know if a team wants to take on a contract that Saquon Barkley, it's an interesting situation because you see how the team does now. It's tough with Saquon Barkley. I really don't know his future with the Giants. I don't know if they're going to sign him to a long-term deal with all these problems because I think the running back position is very easy to fix. And we see some of these running backs coming into the league. I know Jahmyr Gibbs has not been that guy for the Lions, but I think very soon he's going to be a guy that really blossoms into this league. I just think there's a lot of potential with him, and they're obviously just giving the ball to Montgomery. But I think the Giants could just draft a running back, get one out of the way. Adoree Jackson, I think, has been the worst of those three. I could very well see him just shipped to anywhere, whether it's like a Buffalo team because they need a cornerback because Tre'Davious White is injured, or just a contending team that wants, a mid-tier, low-end cornerback. But yeah, this Giants team taking on the Miami Dolphins next week, taking on Tyreek Hill, Tua, all of those weapons. They are an amazing team, that Dolphins squad, and it's not going to be easy for them. And their defense is playing well too, so it's not even just like this is an offensive team where you can maybe sprawl some points on and make this game close. I mean, if you can't guard Tyreek Hill and you can't double team him or just do any sort of that, it could be a very, very long day because we've already seen what he has done this season. He has had some really, really good games this year. And, I mean, he is just one of the best wide receivers in the league. It's going to be tough. And, with, the Buffalo Bills, I mean, yeah, it's Brian Dable's former team, taking on them. I believe it's in Buffalo, too. So, I mean, that's going to be another, offense just needs to really step up, man. That's just a big thing. Hopefully, Saquon Barkley comes back and Andrew Thomas comes back soon. Andrew Thomas is pretty much in doubt for the game against Miami, so probably going to be another video of me just breaking down this horrific offensive line performance. I try not to really just, bury the offensive line, but that's just really been how bad they are. But anyways, it's been the Inside Boot Podcast. and we wait for the game on Sunday. And I'll have a recap video probably Monday or Tuesday for that game. But regardless, this has been the Inside the Boot podcast, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.